For all you big buck hunters, if you're looking for an ideal base camp for hunting the big woods in the Adirondacks and Tug Hill, you've got to call our friends at Christmas & Associates. For over 35 years, they've been providing land and camps to sportsmen. 5 to 50 acres, rivers, streams, and ponds in some of the best locations. Affordable prices and in-house financing with low monthly payments. They can even build their Adirondack-style cabins on property you already own. For more information, call Christmas & Associates at 1-800-229-7843 or go to landandcamps.com or visit them on Facebook at Christmas & Associates. Take care. Welcome to the Adirondack Hunt Podcast, a Big Woods Bucks production. In this podcast, the Big Woods Bucks crew from New York sits down and discusses all things hunting and even a little fishing within the blue line. 6 million acres of old-growth forest and few roads make the Adirondacks one of the most challenging places to hunt in the country. From Iroquois and Algonquin deer drives to the early days of Adirondack guiding, the team discusses the history, legends, and lore of these ancient mountains. Along the way, the team interviews top Adirondack hunters, from well-known legends to little-known local legends, homing in on what it takes to be successful in these unforgiving woods. All right, welcome back to the Adirondack Hunt Podcast. I'm your host, Brian Connor, Big Woods Bucks CEO and video guy. We're here recording in my yard. We're recording a little podcast on guns today. Big Woods guns, Adirondack guns. Later on in this episode, we're going to have on Danny Larsson from Skinner Sights, who's going to join us from Montana, and we're going to ask him some questions. So I'm going to turn it right over to the Sheerans for an episode on Big Woods guns. We brought some guns here today, huh, Mark?
Yeah, we did. So I want to give a little history about what we've been doing for the last bunch of years with different gun brands. And I've been testing, Austin and I and Lee Shands and several of the other team members have been, Bob and Brian as well, have been testing guns in the Big Woods. And different brands, different styles, different action types, and then eventually what happens when you do this long enough, you get a short list of what people like, what works, what is reliable, and what is really good. And we've built and had relationships with the various gun shops in the area, and so out of this whole thing, this whole effort, and this has been, with me, it's been going on. I've been building tracking rifles now for, 10 years, 15 years. Out of this, we now have a partnership with Henry Repeating Arms, and we are really excited about that. Now, that's, by the time this podcast comes out, that's already been announced, obviously. But today we're going to show some of the different sighting options. We're really going to focus mostly on Skinner optics and sighting options and mounts and things like that, because Danny is going to be joining us. But I do want to talk about the fact that Henry, we are super excited because they're building our own Big Woods Bucks series of tracking rifles, which myself and the team have spec'd out. With our proprietary tracking peep sights, a proprietary fiber optic front sight with some added metal for protection for the big woods, and the guns will also have engraving, and you may have already seen these, so I might be singing to the choir out to the crowd, but it'll also have our logo engraved in upgraded, beautiful walnut stocks. So, and these guns have all been spec'd out with the mobile hunter in mind, but as we all know, a good tracking and still hunting rifle also works wonders in a deer stand or a blind. So if you're a stand hunter, there's so many options available to you that we're going to offer. So we're going to talk about guns today, and so I've gotten a lot of questions. Can we get right into the guns?
Yeah, please. Yeah.
Okay. So
go for it.
So I've gotten a lot of questions about this. This is one of my favorite rifles. In 2023, I guess it was 24. This was my Henry buckhammer. It's 360 buckhammer that I shot my buck with on what video was that? The process?
Process.
Yep, at the end of the process, you can see the buck I shot with this gun. And since then, I took the scope off this particular model, and I put what is called a Speed U. And we'll get a close-up of this. We'll get close-ups of everything we're talking about today. So if you're watching the podcast, you'll be able to see. I don't work well with a peep sight. I've struggled with a peep sight. I've missed a lot of bucks because a peep, personally, on the receiver back by my eye does not work well. It actually becomes fuzzy to the point where it obscures the vision.
Well, it's part of age and eye dominancy issues.
That's right.
It's a combination of both.
That's right. But Austin will talk about his gun in a second, where he does fantastic with the peep sight. But this has a Speed U, which is basically a peep sight aperture cut in half, and then a fiber optic on the front. And it's far enough away because it's sitting in the dovetail on the rear of the barrel. It's far enough away from my eye that it acts as just an open sight. But it's sort of a hybrid between a peep and an open sight, and it really works well. So for those nasty, nasty days when it's just pouring rain and things like that, and I don't want to have a scope on, this is the gun I would take. So why don't we talk about your gun? This is one of Austin's, I think it was the first rifle I bought for you when you were a boy. First
centerfire. Yep. Do you want to talk? Or you want me to talk?
You can. You go through. Go through how you have it set up.
Well, why don't you do it so I have hands?
Okay. Okay. So this is an interesting setup. So the scope you're seeing there is a Skinner Sights 1x6. So it's a true 1 power. And it's a red dot with a German crosshair duplex reticle, a German number 4 crosshair, which is a very quick acquisition reticle. And that scope comes off with the throw of the levers there. And so let's say you're hunting out in the hardwoods, and all of a sudden you get pulled into a cedar bog, and there's snow everywhere, and you don't want to deal with a scope. You just pop that off. And what's really elegant about what Andy did, let me get a close-up of that, is he basically elongated the steel tracker peep sight. He made it bigger, grooved it, and set it up so that you could put the scope on and off of the peep sight itself.
Yeah, it's essentially one of Andy's Skinner Express sights with our aperture, and I think technically it's the way it's set up and designed, it works better as like a rimfire sight. But what Andy did is he put a recoil lug in the top of it, so when the gun goes off, the rings don't slide.
Yep. They can't slide, and they don't. They do not move. They're just as solid as they come.
Because there's no grooves like throughout the center of the sight like you would have on a normal Picatinny or Weaver rail. So, because it just kind of clamps to the outside, but then, with the recoil lug, that solves that issue. So you can put it on whatever, 45, 70, 30-06, doesn't matter. Right.
He's tested it everywhere, including Africa, with some of the hardest recoiling guns in the world.
Yeah. So it's just a good setup. I can have a scope, have peep sight. It's because for the longest time with our convertibles that we would set up, it would usually be open sights and then have Weaver bases with rings, Warns or Tallies or something with a scope. So this allows me to have a peep sight, which I prefer, especially on this gun. So it's like best of both worlds. Plus, it looks really good.
I think that's the key here. So Andy has now produced a Picatinny rail with an integral peep sight that's similar to that, but the deal with this particular sight option is the elegance of it. It doesn't look like a Picatinny. It doesn't look like what Andy calls the cheese grater. But the cheese grater has a lot of flexibility with sighting options and a lot more places that you can place the scope because it's got multiple places. This however, is set up with basically one.
Right? Yeah, you're pretty limited. And with the 1-6 being a bigger bodied scope because it's got a 30 mil tube, it almost is too long where you have to have this ring set, but it still works.
I had heard just someone saying the other day, it was Scott, but the Picatinny, when you remove the scope, how it's uncomfortable when you remove the scope, having your hand on that,
Yep.
the jagged Picatinny.
Yeah.
So that's something to think about. I mean, that's smooth as can be. You take that scope off, and it's just like
A normal
the
express
normal
sight.
receiver. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's true. I think it also depends on the rifle itself. For example, he's probably talking about a pump, and a pump people typically wrap their hand all the way around. A lever action has a deeper slab to the metal, so your hand, it's easier for your thumb to rest on the side. So a lot of cases with something like any type of lever action, they're just taller, and so it's easy to have the Picatinny on top,
Right.
and not
Makes
be a
sense.
problem.
Makes sense.
So here's another gun. This is a 44 Magnum. You're okay. I didn't realize you had that gun with you. This is a 44 mag, and this is just a straight up the new Skinner Sights 1x4. And the 1x4 is a fantastic scope because it's red dot and green dot. You get to choose. You get to choose the brightness, or have the red dot or green dot off, and then you just have the German crosshair. When I shot my buck last year, you'll see it in the process too. When I tracked down my buck, I had this scope, and I didn't have the illumination on at the time, and it was a gray day, rainy, and I pulled that gun up, and I was right on target with just a regular reticle. So it's got really good glass. For the money, there is no scope that exists anywhere that is as good for the money than the Skinner scopes. That's a fact, and I've put them through hell. Never had them fail. That's the truth. Big falls, gun going down a granite cliff in New Hampshire last year. A fall hard enough that I snapped the entire stock off of my bar rifle and jammed wood up into the turrets. I put a new stock on it. I called Browning, had a new stock installed, and I brought the gun out, and I shot into a knot in a tree at 100 yards, and it was still on. So they're just a really robust unit. So this is a great little tracking rifle here as well, and they all have the shell in them, which means it killed a buck.
Now, Mark, what's the first option that we're going to have in terms of the order of the guns we're coming out with Henry?
Well, and like I said, it may be out already by the time this comes out, but the first one is this is exciting too, is a Henry Long Ranger center fire 308 carbine. So it's it's got a magazine. It's not the typical lever action where it's tube fed. It's got a magazine. It's thin in the hand. It's going to have upgraded wood, an 18-inch carbine barrel. They normally come 20 inches. They're regular Long Ranger. And again, it's in 308. So that gun only weighs 6.5 pounds. So you have a center fire 308, really smooth lever action.
Well, that's the benefit of a box magazine, is being able to use different cartridges that have pointed bullets, because you can't have them in a tube magazine.
That's right.
Obvious reasons.
Well, you can for maybe one or two shots.
Well, one shot, and the second shot is a very large explosion.
Bang, boom.
It's quite violent. So yeah, with Henry coming out with the Long Ranger, it definitely, helps because there's just more variety, what you use for calibers.
So, sorry, I was drinking my coffee. So there's going to be 5 other guns that they're going to spec out. There's going to be a 35 Remington carbine that is specially made for us. That'll have an 18-inch barrel. Excuse me. And it will have a pistol grip. All of these guns are going to be in walnut, upgraded walnut, really beautiful burl wood, and bluing steel, blued steel. So, and they will all have our proprietary tracker peep sight with Skinner and the ramp with the fiber optic, and our logo engraved very discreetly, by the way, on the classic plaid green hoof and skull logo without the words, just very discreetly in the corner of the stock, so people know it's a sort of a collector's item or a bona fide tracking rifle.
And a Big Woods Bucks product.
Yeah.
We didn't necessarily want it to be a billboard. We wanted the gun to speak for itself.
That's right, with the
so
features.
We put it on there, I think, in a kind of tastefully understated way, and it should look beautiful, really. I can't wait.
Yeah,
They showed us the mock-up, and it's just awesome.
Yeah, and maybe if we have the mock-up in time, we can
Throw it up,
throw it up there. I don't know if we'll have the full mock-up done by then.
Yeah, yep.
Oh, we got the pictures of the wood,
Yeah,
so maybe we can put that up.
yep.
Yeah, we'll throw that up. You got the Skinner red dot on there.
Yeah, let's
Wanna
talk about that. And
So
talk about that gun too. That's a little interesting thing.
yeah, so this is a European model Winchester semi-auto, it's essentially a Browning bar.
Yep, with different stocks, I think.
Yeah, it's got some minute differences, like the checkering or texture, on the stocks are a little different. But it's the inner workings of it are the same.
Yeah.
Overall design is the same, which it's a great gun. It's pretty cool to have. There's not a ton of them,
Yeah, I think there's only a couple hundred in America that were brought over last year, and so I grabbed one just to have it.
And then I somehow ended up with it.
I just gave it to him. I like giving my kids guns.
But yeah, so the cool thing about this gun is, it comes with these Batu sights, which are really nice, open sights. They're pretty natural to use.
Very quick.
Yeah, they're awesome. But I put Skinner's red dot on there, which it's a good gun for it. I like the red dot. The thing with Andy's ecosystem, kind of with the way his stuff works, you notice my peep sight, I can have a scope or I can have a peep sight.
Right.
With this, if I didn't use this mount and use a traditional mount for a Weaver or a Picatinny, I could put that on here. I could have the red dot, the Batu sights, and I could also put a scope on.
Yeah, you can quite literally shoot in a swamp at 10 feet with irons. You could then shoot something at 150 yards with that there sight, then go out to 300 with the 1x4, and then shoot long range, quite literally, with the 1x6 out to 500, 600, 700 yards.
Yeah.
I mean, with one gun.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And one round.
Just switch them back and forth. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's pretty cool, how modular everything can be.
And we've been working with Andy on that, and it's pretty cool. It's really an amazing system that he's built, and it's all affordable. It's on our website. You can get our proprietary. He built our peep sight for us to our team specs, and a lot of he also has an intuitive idea about what works and what doesn't, because he's a hunter. He's not sitting in a stand. They spot and stalk bears, which is going to be a big, by the way, upcoming with Dan. I want to talk about their bear hunting, because they've shot a lot of bears on the ground out in Montana.
Yeah, we're definitely going to talk to him about that.
Yeah. So, this gives you an idea of the guns. Yeah.
I'm going to quickly show this. This is just, if you listen to the last episode with Shirk, this is my 760 that I missed that buck in Pennsylvania with, and which I killed 2 does with last year. I bought this before the craze in 2019, before the price skyrocketed. I got this for $500 at Quattro's in the Hudson Valley on my way up to camp one weekend. And it's beautiful. Signed by Hal on the butt plate. He cleaned it all for me. Put the Skinner 1-6 on there. Just a beautiful gun. Now, some of you may be asking, is Hal, I'm sure people are going to be asking, is Hal switching to Henry? The answer is no, if I can speak for Hal. Mm-hmm. And some of you may be asking, why Henry or what gun should I pick? And the answer is what works for you.
That's
and
a great point.
We're promoting Henry because lever actions have a storied history of use in the big woods, and they're an amazing option. And having the opportunity to work with a major gun company whose values we align with, made in America or not at all, these are big principles that we share with Henry. So that's really why we're partnering with them. That's why we're promoting them. I'm going to be using a Henry this season because I'm excited about it, and it's just a beautiful gun. But if you have a 760 and it ain't broke, maybe no need to fix it. But
so let me talk about Hal for a minute. So that should just tell you how much that we believe in what we're doing, right? So will Hal ever use a Henry? Sure. He said to me, he goes, Mark, anything but deer season. I'm 67 years old and I've been using one gun for 40 years, 35 years. And so that's not going to change during deer season. But he goes, but if I'm moose hunting or elk hunting, he goes, I take a lot of other guns, Yeah. And so some of us might switch up guns during different seasons as well. But here's what I know. Henry has, first of all, they're super responsive to our needs. And very few gun manufacturers are willing to be responsive to the needs of the market as quickly as they were willing to be. They listened. They understood that in the Northeast and in the big woods of Canada and these different areas that our demographic is heavy in, nobody's listening to that demographic. So a lot of you listeners know you're getting a gun, you're modifying your lever actions, you're putting different sights on it, you're building it for this harsh environment that we're in. And some of you that are getting older are switching to these different scope options and things like this. Well, what we did with Henry was we said, can you build us a gun so that the owner doesn't have to do that? That all of that is done to our specifications from day one. And, I take a lot of the questions, Austin takes a lot of the questions, and Lee Shands takes a lot of the questions from the public saying, what kind of fiber optic should I get? What peep sight should I get? How can I make it so that I can have a scope one day, and when I get into that, dirty Vly that's all wet and nasty, how can I take my scope off and still have my gun be accurate? We get all these questions. Well, the answer is Skinner products plus Henry, they're responsive, their values are there, and they want you to be happy. And we do too. We just happen to be the guys that are collecting from this vast demographic all this information, and we want you to be happy because, frankly, I don't think a lot of you want to do what I did, which is go through 10, 12, 15...
Struggle.
Yeah.
Struggle for a decade.
There it is. There it is, trying to find the options.
Right.
Miss deer.
Yeah. A tremendous amount of heartache because I didn't have a gun I liked.
Yeah.
And it didn't work. So anyway, I really am excited to finally have a gun manufacturer listen. And they're listening to you out there in the public. So check out, we're in their catalog now. Big Woods Bucks is in their catalog. We're on the website. Look for it's going to be called the Big Woods and then whatever the model is. So we're going to have a 4570, a 3030, the 308 Long Ranger, 360 Buckhammer, and a 22 as well, and a 4570, I think.
35 Remington.
And the 35 Remington. So there's going to be models and all those different calibers for you set up for the big woods.
Carbines, Skinner sights.
Yep.
I mean, damn. It don't get better.
It doesn't.
It's like Christmas.
It really is like Christmas. So we got an appointment with Danny. We're going to get him on and talk a little bit more about Skinner. So we'll be right back. This podcast is brought to you in part by Minus 33. Minus 33 is a wool and textile manufacturer based in New Hampshire that is producing top-notch merino wool base layers and socks. Layering your clothes when you're hunting the big woods is key. As we've discussed on the podcast, the conditions and distances involved in hunting the Adirondacks mean that you have to take your gear seriously. You can't afford to not have the best gear, and that's particularly true of your base layers. Minus 33 long johns should be an essential part of your gear system to keep you warm while you're out in the Adirondack backcountry. As for socks, I've tried dozens of pairs of wool socks over the years, and Minus 33 Heritage socks are by far the comfiest. If you go on the Minus 33 website, you can read about the care that they've taken to create these socks. And once you put them on, the difference is obvious. They are perfect for long days hoofing it up and down mountains in the Dacks. So get prepped for the next season now by clicking on the link in the description and getting stocked up on Minus 33 merino base layers and socks. Happy hunting. The Adirondack Hunt Podcast is brought to you in part by Seek Outside Tents. Seek Outside is an American company producing lightweight, versatile tents and titanium stoves. The Big Woods Bucks team and their friends have hunted the Adirondacks with Seek Outside hot tents and found that it's the best way to get back into the wilderness areas and have a remote hunt. With few roads and hiking trails the only way to access the extensive backcountry of the Adirondacks, your pack needs to be as light as possible. Seek Outside's lightweight tents and stoves enable you to get back there into the most remote country and hunt mature Adirondack bucks that likely have never seen a human being. Use code BWB at checkout on SeekOutside.com and get 10% off your Seek Outside gear. Good luck on your remote hunt in the big woods. All right, everybody, welcome back. We have on with us Danny Larsson of Skinner Sights, and who's Andy Larsson's son, and obviously an integral part of the operation at Skinner and a good friend of ours. So we've been discussing Skinner Sights, different options, and I think we're just going to get right to it. How you doing, Danny?
I'm doing all right. It's a good day here in Montana. We're getting some sunshine.
Yeah,
there you go.
We are too, which is rare here in New York.
Yeah, what's you guys' summer game? You do a lot of fishing, or?
We do all sorts of stuff. We have church camps that go on. We do some fishing with that. We kind of combine the two, take kids fishing. It's a good time.
Good deal.
Oh, that's cool.
Well, thanks for taking the time out. So we'll jump right in. Mark, did you want to start us off?
So we kind of already reviewed your products from this perspective. So I really want to talk a little bit more about hunting bears. You and I talked about this because it's an interesting thing, because in different states in the east here, you have a lot of different ways that bears are hunted. And you have everything from hunting them with hounds in Maine and baiting, and of course spot and stalk, and to all of that in different states, right? But in New York specifically, we can't bait, and we can't use hounds. It's just if you see a bear and you want to take it, that's the way you get it. Or you actually go out and you hunt them, the old-fashioned way, on foot and go after them. So that seems to be, isn't that the case in Montana as well, that it's just spot and stalk?
Yes, a couple of years ago, they opened it up in some regions to use hounds, which is, I think we're in year 2 in all of the years I've been hunting, but not in our zone. We're up in region 1, and it's still without any help. I
see. Yeah. So tell me about what, if you were to talk to people about what's the common scenario? Like, how far is the average shot? What gun do you use? Give some descriptions of the way a typical bear hunt works in Montana.
Sure. In our neck of the woods, the normal bear hunting, what we do is we try to cruise the mountain roads up where the logging roads give us access, and then we try and find them. In the spring, it's kind of easier to find them because they're eating the fresh grass, the fresh clover that first comes up. And so we're trying to get to where we can see big open clear cuts or just see down kind of a green grassy road when the grass first come up, and then we go after them. You got to spot them first, and they may be a mile or two away. And then you figure out, how do I get close enough to do a foot stalk on them, or I have gone all the way to the bottom of steep ravines and back up to get on them before. So it's just kind of whatever it takes to get on them.
Yeah. So now we're talking specifically about black bears, and there's no grizzly brown bear licenses in Montana yet, correct?
Right. No, we can't hunt them yet, but they're definitely here. I had a big one walk by my front door the other day. Well, about a year ago now. Big grizzly. But yeah, no, these are just black bears. They come in all the different colors, but black bears. My son just harvested a really nice, kind of a reddish brown one at about 350 yards. Ooh. So you never know how close they're going to be. The one I shot this year was probably under 70 yards.
Yeah.
Well, I want to ask about whitetails. I mean, because you're one of the few states. I don't know if they're in your region where you guys live, but you're one of the few western states that has whitetails. Can you describe how you're pursuing them? I mean, I've seen pics of you and Andy, your father, with some pretty nice big woods Montana whitetails. Can you describe a typical a day of going out for whitetails by you?
Yeah, we have both muleys and whitetails. I'm kind of a muley freak myself. But the whitetails are spread out all through the timber, and sometimes we find them way up high. Sometimes you'll find them up at 7,000 feet. And there's actually some pretty good bucks up there sometimes that guys aren't killing down low. A lot of times they're more in the heavy timber, but we also catch them coming out across the clear cuts. And I would say an average shot for me when I'm hunting in western Montana is probably probably about 400 yards. Three to 400
wow.
yards
Oh,
is
wow.
where I'm at.
That's perfect.
But
Not a big
over in
target,
eastern
yeah.
Montana, it is wide open. And Dad really likes to hunt them in the thick timber here, where he'll go and he'll rattle during the rut and bring them in, that under 100 yards and shoot those guys that are looking for the girls. So
That's cool. Yeah. I mean, probably not that much unlike how we're hunting our bucks here. I mean, really, it's been the timber as you described it. That's pretty neat. And have you tried your hand at tracking?
I do not do very much tracking. A lot of times when I'm hunting, I'm over here and they're over here. But I remember as a kid with Dad in the deep timber, that was back before we had these wolves that we have now, and there's a lot more deer around. And he took me tracking one day, and I think I slowed him down. We didn't ever find the buck, but I remember it being exciting following the great big tracks all over the hill and back and forth. But we never did find it.
That's cool. So what kind
Larson's
of?
got a question.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead,
Yeah.
Lawson.
How detrimental are the wolves getting?
They're pretty bad. We had a timber wolf that kind of behaved itself, and we had a couple packs that didn't really kill everything. But when they brought the new ones into Yellowstone, the population has exploded, and I'd say we've got about 20% of the deer and elk we used to.
Oh my God.
Wow.
Just
Wow.
just going from the 80s into the 90s when they brought the wolf in, and I think this year we can hunt 10 wolves a year, and it might be up to 20. So they're trying to do some control on them,
kidding.
but it's just really hard to do because they are smart.
Yeah.
I've been able to lay my hands on a few. It's an exciting thing. They're fun to hunt, but they're really smart and far between.
You running them with dogs?
No, no, you can't do that. The lion hunters that use dogs, they hate the wolves. But no, usually my buddy and I are way up high on a mountain opening weekend or something like that, and we'll hear them howling, and then we'll try and get to a good spot to call, and then just call like a mule deer fawn that's getting torn apart. And he killed a really nice, beautiful black one last year. And in
Cool.
2020, I got to shoot two of them doing that on the opening day. So.
Yeah.
No kidding. So, like, how big are these wolves that you're killing?
That's a good question. I was talking to a wolf hunter yesterday who said your biggest ones are getting up to about 105.
Wow.
Sometimes as big as 150. Some guys say 100 or 120. Some guys say 150, but that's just not true. If you get a really big, like the alpha male I shot in 20, probably about 100 pounds.
Yeah.
That's still
Still
massive.
gigantic.
Big dog.
Yeah, it's a big dog.
So what's your typical rig for whitetail hunting, bear hunting? What rifle? What
What's your
optics?
favorite?
Yeah.
What's your favorite rig for hunting?
What's your favorite Skinner sight?
Yeah. Yeah.
My
What's your favorite
favorite
Big
rig
Woods
for
box
hunting,
tracker
again,
sight?
because I'm shooting from one mountain to another, a lot of times it's a super accurate bolt action. I have put a number of our Skinner scopes on some of those, like the 1 to 6 that you guys are using, and I've shot that on a Weatherby 6.5 RPM, and I can shoot stuff out to 600 pretty easy with that. But the last couple of years, like I was using the Henry long range rifle when I shot that bear under 70 yards this year, and then I've also been shooting quite a bit of the Marlins and such. And I
Yeah.
don't have a scope on this one at the moment, but that's kind of our go-to this year. We're doing a lever gun series with the magazine that I write for, online huntingwire.com. And so this year I'm hunting with all lever guns and just seeing what we can do with that 30-30 Ackley and put that out there. So
That's such a cool little round. So I see you have the Long Ranger there. Is that what caliber? 308, I assume?
that one's in a 308 Winchester.
Yeah. 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 That's a great all-around caliber for what you're talking about, I think.
Yep,
So-
you can throw big bullets, you can throw small bullets. The 308's fantastic.
Yeah,
So-
it is.
Forgive me if I missed anything, but for those, because you were talking about quite long shots on whitetails, which are, I mean, I guess compared to muleys and elk are pretty small target. You're using the 1 to 6 cranked up to 6.
If I'm shooting long range, yes.
Yeah.
When I shot that bear in the dog hair timber this year, I was able to turn that way down. And frankly, I had 2 trees, and as soon as it walked between those 2 trees were halfway between me and it. then I was able to trip that trigger and I put her down. But yeah, it just depends on the situation you're in. One of the things I do love about that 1 to 6 is if you do get up close and personal, basically it's as you're seeing with your eyeballs, only you got a crosshair. But the 6 power, it's enough. A lot of people need a high power scope to shoot way out there. And Dad and I've never found that to be true. Even with the 6 power scope, 500 or 600 yards isn't that hard to put a bullet accurately where you want it. So
Spoken as a true Westerner, I've never shot over 100 yards.
I think if you took all the deer that I've killed and added up all the yardage, it isn't that far.
Yeah, that's 6 football fields. I'm like, that's just crazy.
So when you're typically out there, spot and stalking, I guess we kind of just call that cell hunting for bear, whitetail, or even muleys. What power are you keeping it on as like your baseline?
Good question.
yeah, I usually keep it at around 4.
Okay.
Interesting.
That way, if I bump into them close up, it's not too hard to get the scope on them. And if they're farther out, you've got time to turn that scope up.
Got it.
So it's better to keep that low where you can really use it and is practical.
Yeah.
I remember some times in the timber having a scope turned up too high, say 9 power, and then you get on a deer at 50 yards and it doesn't do you much good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you'd find if you polled most big woods hunters and a lot of people are buying our collaborative big woods scope, the 1 to 4 and the 1 to 6. I think if you polled most big woods hunters, that it would be in terms of like what they're keeping it at baseline, it would probably be like 1 or 2, wouldn't you say?
No doubt about it. What do you keep it at, Austin?
2.
Yep.
Yeah.
I keep it at 2. Lee Shantz keeps it at 2. You keep it at 2. I know Bob
like
does.
1 most of the time. Even yeah.
Yeah. It's
Because if I have time to change it, it's further away.
right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's walking.
Yeah.
2 will get you out there pretty good,
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So if there was one favorite rifle of yours of all time with and scope combination or peep sight or what we call a convertible where it's a removable setup, what would it be? What would yours be for everything in Montana?
Everything in Montana, peep sight rifle.
It would.
No kidding.
Even with how open it is.
We have such fantastic facilities putting out lever actions these days. That makes it a little bit hard. I'm a little bit partial to Marlins, just always been a love of ours.
Yeah.
And Dad's working on getting this 3030 PLC. It's an Ackley improved 3030 put into modern production, so you can use the old rounds and then you can use the higher performing 3030s.
Yeah,
I would say that would be a good all-around gun for me if I was to use a peep sight, because even with peep sights, 200 or 300 yards is doable if you got good eyes. So
yeah, I struggle with open sights past, I'd say 120 yards. So if you had an all-around, if you had that gun, would you prefer the peep over having a scoped option, or would you want the scoped option? Which one would you prefer in general?
Sure. I personally, if I wasn't shooting over 150, I would just use a peep sight completely. I wouldn't bother with other things. Now, you guys are more in the thick stuff. I'm hunting the big open because, again, with our wolves and having fewer critters, I'm trying to maximize. I just need to find something.
Right.
And so having all that open countryside that I can use my binoculars and my eyes to find the critters. So most of the stuff that I'm shooting with peep sights is going to be way out in the open. But like that bear the other day, if I was hunting in stuff as thick as you guys, I would definitely want a scope, because that helps you to thread through those trees or be able to see that little bit of what you can see and identify what it is. So scopes are, there's a reason why scopes are so fantastic, because the technology, and it gives you a precise aiming point and a little better view. So I would probably go with a scope. Again, in the open, out to 150, 200 yards, I just use a peep sight all the time. I wouldn't worry about it. But I don't think that would work where you guys are at. So
that's so interesting, isn't it? What were you going to say, Austin?
I was going to ask him if he's used the red dot much.
Yeah.
A little bit. I shot a whitetail doe last year using a Savage 99 and a 308 Winchester, and it worked great. We've been working on some mounts that go in your dovetail up here on the barrel, so
I'm
that you can
really
put a red dot
interested in
out
that.
there.
I'm
And
really interested
that's what
in
we
that.
got going on this 348. And I was shooting this at our gravel pit the other day, and it is just so easy. And I actually got kind of excited about it, which you shoot guns as much as I do, different guns. You don't always get excited about everything, but I am liking that red dot quite a bit. I was showing it to some guys yesterday who run mountain lions. We call them cats, who run cats, and they were looking at that saying, I need to have one of those on my 22 for shooting mountain lions once they get up a tree. So yeah, I do like that red dot. Just makes it really easy.
Yeah, so that's a really interesting option because I struggle, Danny, with a peep near my eye. And Andy always laughs at me. He says, "Mark, it's supposed to turn into a fuzzy thing." I said, "Yeah, I get that the peep sight is sort of, you ignore it, but not when it's so fuzzy it turns into an opaque window, where I can't see the deer or anything. It's just the way my eye works." So when I discovered your Speed U out, 8-10 inches from my eyeball, it was a game changer. I mean, that was a game changer for me. For the first time, I could use a sight that was similar to a peep. I could probably even use your peep out on the barrel, the dovetail mounted barrel mount. It was wonderful. So I am intrigued about the red dot on the rear dovetail as well. That seems like a really neat option. I might have to take a look at that and put that like on a 35 Remington.
It goes in that dovetail slot, and then it's got a screw on each side with a brass head on it or a brass pin at the bottom, so that you can really level that to the gun. You get that on there, and it goes in and makes it really solid, so that you can just stick your peep on there, or your red dot, excuse me, and it just goes on nice and low, and it works.
You guys are like Thomas Edison out there. It's crazy. You're always coming up with new stuff. It's brilliant.
It's endless. They have such a good engineering department because it's you guys and you guys get it. There's so many companies out there that don't actually use the stuff that they produce. You guys use it. You're out there hunting. You're doing the dirty work, testing it, and you love what you do. It's awesome.
Well, again, it's like that multi-use thing because you can leave the base and the dovetail, take the sight off. You could have rails on the receiver for a scope.
For him,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you guys have any more questions?
No. Danny, you got any crazy stories you want to share?
Tell us your craziest
Crazy stories.
Craziest, most deadly.
Charged by bears.
Yeah.
You can tell that we like the bear
Most deadly
stories.
stories when I brought those 2 guns home and told my wife.
No, that's a horror story. Okay, we've all had
Not
that.
near-death experiences, just scary stuff.
Yeah, we don't want sad divorce stories.
Thinking most deadly stories.
Or just a story that's one that's important to you or that you remember, that is a fun story, whatever, some poignant story that matters to you.
Sure. And we've got so many stories. Part of that's just figuring out what you want to hear about. This bear last year, it's a little more about like the hunting that you guys do than the hunting I normally do. But we were working our way down a logging road, and through that thick timber, I could see, it looked like, there's all these black stumps, and you're looking through all these little dog hair pines that are about 8, 10, 6 foot tall, whatever they are. And this one just looked different. And I actually had to back up about 20 yards, and I'm looking through there and using my binoculars, and finally figured out it was a bear. And it was only, I don't know, only 30 yards down through the trees. By the time I figured that out, though, it turned and it ran straight away from me. And I was trying to figure out exactly how to play that so I could be successful on that one because I've got 5 kiddos and we need all the meat we can get. My son had got a bear, and if I could get a bear too, that'd be great. And we can them. We stick them in jars and I bring them to work and I eat them, and it's fantastic. Basically like stew meat. Anyways, so I actually hunkered down and I waited about 30 seconds, just thinking I'm going to give this, because if I just chase after it, it's just going to blow out of there. And at the moment, it's just running away. So I gave it about 30 seconds, just kind of hunkered down and waited. And then I ran as fast and as quiet as I could through that timber, just working my way straight the direction the bear did. When I got in there 50 to 75 yards, I slowed down and then I just started going real quiet. And I'm sure this sounds familiar to you guys. This is what you do. This is a little bit foreign to me.
Yeah.
But as I kind of worked down through there another 20, 30 yards, it had stopped and it had looked around. Nothing was following it. So it started to kind of graze and move off to my left. And so I just worked up a little bit farther, and it was so thick in there I couldn't see very well. And I'm not too worried about black bears. I know a lot of people are. I have them in my yard all the time. One of my favorite pastimes is to bark at them and chase them. It's really fun to put them up a tree. You can put a mama black bear and her babies all up a tree, and it doesn't bother me a bit. The grizzly bears, they're crabby. You leave them alone. But
Crabby.
so I'm not worried about being in this thick timber with the black bear. But I got up to where I could see it there, and it turned around, and I literally just had that little tiny gap. And I think I did turn that scope up to probably 4 or 6, somewhere in there. And as soon as it hit that opening, I triggered that, and she rolled over on the ground and let out her death cry, and she was done. And she wasn't a big bear; she was an old bear. Her teeth were worn way down. She was a dry sow. Didn't have any babies this year. There, they got eaten in the spring. I don't know. But yeah, it was just a great time. I had my father-in-law with me. He was in for just a short amount of time, and so he got to be there, take the pictures, and that was a special time. Get to put that on the ground and
Love it.
Cool
share
story.
that with my kids. We brought it home, and the little kids. My youngest is 3, so the 3 and the 5-year-old, they were down there looking at its teeth and playing with it and doing all the things, and that's just really special.
That's
cool.
a cool hunt. So I do have a question about that. So you said she wasn't that big. So do bears? I haven't shot that many bears. Right, I've shot I think 3 total. And so do they genetically, are some just smaller? They don't just continue to grow and get big?
Yeah. I've thought a lot about that actually. I saw a statistic here a while back that said that I think 4% of largemouth bass have the genetics to get really big, like over 10 pounds or whatever it is. I think that runs in most of your deer, in most of your bears, that sort of thing. We have some bears, and there's certain areas, well, even with muleys and elk and all that, there's certain areas that seem to have a genetic strain in them that get a lot bigger. But then a lot of your areas, it doesn't seem like, I'm 5.5 foot tall. I'm not a tall guy. And, some of the bears are like that. We've seen some that are 7 plus. Dad shot one that was 7.5 feet tall. It was living with an elk herd and it was killing calves. That's where he hunted it and where he killed it. But most of the bears I bump into aren't all that big. If they're under 6 foot, I don't worry about them too much. Once they get to be about 6 foot long nose to tail, then they start to get an attitude on them, and you give them a lot more respect. But
Yeah.
these
sure.
5.5 foot bears aren't bad.
So what is the weight on a typical, let's say, 6 foot bear? What is the typical weight or an average that you would say?
A typical 6 foot bear, probably about 250 pounds, maybe 300 if it's kind of a girthier one.
Yeah.
A lot of people call a 6 foot bear a 450 pounder, and it's just not true.
Right. Yeah, that's common here too. I remember I shot a really small bear, a little yearling once, and I swear when I first saw it, I was so embarrassed that I shot him, because I swear when I saw him, I was like, "There's a huge bear right there!" And I shot it. I walked up and I go, "Oh my God, I am a fool." The bears are like that.
Look what I got.
Yeah. Bob saw it.
I saw it.
It's embarrassing. Yeah. Okay. Any other questions, guys?
Are you packing everything out? Because you guys are in some rugged terrain. Everything gets packed out, I assume. You're not dragging deer there.
Yeah, a lot of the people I grew up hunting with, Dad included, that's how they get stuff out. And I've seen us drag stuff out, a mile and a half or something like that.
Yeah.
And we had some friends who got probably a raghorn bull elk, and they brought it out like a mile and a half whole. And
Really?
Oh
I'm
my
not that
God.
guy. I basically, even if it's a quarter mile, I will quarter it out, stick it in my backpack. My son's bear, he was just kind of a chunky 5-footer, but I was able to gut it, and it was right at dark when we got over there to it. In Grizz country, when you got blood and all that going on in the dark, it's just better
Yeah.
to be out of the woods. So I actually gutted it, and I've got one of the great big stone glacier packs, 7,000 something cubic inches. And so we stuck his nose into the top of the pack and wiggled him until we got him all the way down in there and barely got his tail inside the zip string on top. And then I don't know how big he was. It was probably somewhere around 100 pounds by the time we got all that done. But I walked him all the way out of there that way. So yeah, I pack almost everything out on my back. I'm not a fan of dragging
Right.
anymore, but
Right.
That's hilarious.
That's crazy.
That's cool. That's cool. All right.
All right, Danny. Well, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate your friendship and our partnership. We love you guys. So, yeah.
If
You guys got
anybody
anything?
if anybody has any questions at Skinner Sites, they can contact you. Yes, Danny?
yep.
All right. What is your email address, or how would they contact you?
They can get a hold of us here at the shop if they want to. I can throw that phone number out there. Usually Rob answers that. If
Yeah.
you have questions about any of our sites, Rob is our customer service guy. He knows guns inside and out. And our phone number is 406-745-4570, if you can believe it.
Nice.
That's 406-745-4570. My email address is a little bit goofy. I'd love to answer any questions, or I don't care if you text me. Do you want me to throw numbers out here like this, or what are you asking for?
Your email, I think.
Just
would
just
probably
email
suffice.
just email. Just email is fine.
Yeah.
My email's a little bit goofy. Dad and I built a lever action in 225 Winchester years ago. And so my email is coolest gun in the world, CGITW225@gmail.com.
Love it.
That's funny.
And
That's funny.
if I can say this about you guys, Dad has talked about the Big Woods Bucks guys for a few years now, and I've always kind of been like, I wonder who they are. I'm way out in the West. I'm not familiar with your area. I'm not sure I've even ever been up in your area except for flying into an airport and back out.
Yeah.
But when I got to meet some of you guys at the NRA show, and Dad has always said, these are our kind of guys. These are the guys that are going out there, they're doing it, they're doing the hard stuff, they're not just shooting stuff from the road and calling that hunting and all. He said, these are our kind of guys. They're out there in the rain and they're tracking stuff down, they're packing it out, they're staying overnight. And I was very impressed with the representation you had there. So,
thanks, Danny.
thanks for being our kind of people, and
Thanks, man.
Thank
you.
Yeah,
Thank
we
you.
appreciate that.
Well, we feel the same way, and I can tell you that I just want to say this to our listeners. Skinner Sites is so responsive because they care about you. They care about the customer, and that's why we partnered with them. Plus, their products are second to none. Nobody is as good.
Not even
So
close.
if you have any questions, especially, and I'm going to throw this out there because it's the most common question, I'm sure they get it too, and that is the height of your front sight or any adjustment issues, you contact them and they will have an answer for you. And truthfully, I probably, if you contact me, won't have an answer for you when it comes to the technicalities of that sort of thing. So I just want you to get the answers that you need out there. Now, if it is a general question about any of the Big Woods Bucks series sites, you contact us. We'll clear out any of the questions that you have that we can answer that are general in nature. But when it gets to the real technical stuff, we may be pushing that off to Danny and Rob and Andy. So just letting everybody know that.
And if I may, if you're going to contact us about your front sight, the best thing to do is shoot it at, say, 20 yards, 50 yards, and measure how high or low you're shooting from the point where you're aiming. And then what we need to know is how long it is between the rear sight and the front sight. And then where you're hitting out there, distance to the target, and then where you're hitting. Those three things we can work out and get you the right front sight. So, but that is the most
That's
common
cool.
question. We're gonna tattoo it on us or something. How high does my front sight need to be?
Yeah, so if you have to, if you're building your gun, I want you to rewind that, write that down exactly as he said it, and they will get you the right sight once. Otherwise, you're going to be going back and forth in the post office with product. So don't do that to all of us.
And save yourself some money on ammunition.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's right. That's right. All right. Well, thank you, Danny. This was awesome and gives everybody a flavor of who you are. And I think it's important that people know what's behind Skinner Sights and the future of Skinner Sights.
Thanks, Danny.
All right.
Thanks,
Thank
Danny,
you.
so much.
Thank you.
We'll talk soon.
Take
Have a
care.
good one.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Appreciate you guys. Thanks.
All right. Later, man. All right, everybody. So that was our episode with about Skinner Sights and Big Woods Rifles and our partnership with Henry. Look out for more announcements about our guns that are going to be coming out with Henry. They're just going to be top notch, and we hope you're as excited as we are. Again, reach out to us if you have any questions about the rifles or the sights or any of the optics. And we hope you enjoyed the interview with Danny Larsson. And we'll see you guys next time. Thanks for tuning in to the Adirondack Hunt Podcast. You can find more episodes at bigwoodsbucks.com. Check out bigwoodsbucks.com for the latest gear, including our famous American-made wool hunting jackets, wool hunting fanny packs, and wool hunting pants, along with books, tracking guides, and logo wear. See you next time.